Let's talk about this. Retired Colonel Rich Outzen is a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council and the Jamestown Foundation. Is now joining us live from Washington, D.C. Colonel Rich, good to see you and welcome. It seems like regional conflict is more imminent than ever, given the intensity of the strikes between Hezbollah and Israel. So what happens now? How is the world supposed to react to this escalation?
Well, it's good to be with you. I would argue that already we are in a regional war, or at least Israel and the Iranian proxies are involved in a regional war. There's fighting on multiple fronts. There has been since October 7th with the firing of missiles from the Red Sea and so forth. So the question now is, how big does the war in Lebanon get, and who all does it bring in? I am of the opinion that this painful escalation from Israel was predictable because it has long said for months now that the evacuation of tens of thousands of its citizens from the north of Israel cannot be sustained. So what their military speakers are saying is that they'll continue to turn up the pressure up to and including ground operations until they can return their citizens to northern Israel safely. So I think they're going to continue to turn up the pressure. Hezbollah, for its part, seems to want to continue firing the missiles and maintaining its military positions in the south of Lebanon, and puts the government of Lebanon in a very difficult position.
Colonel Rich, some say this is a diversion from the Gaza war as focus now turns to Lebanon. What say you?
Well, these two, going back to 2006 and even earlier, these two theaters have almost always worked sort of in conjunction with one another. You recall in 2006, the war started with several weeks of fighting in the Gaza Strip, and then there was the kidnapping of Israeli soldiers in the north, leading to a major retaliation and ground invasion of southern Lebanon by the Israelis. So there's this resistance strategy that Iran, or terror strategy, if you look at it from the Israeli perspective, that Iran tries to apply to pressure Israel on multiple fronts, means that they will almost always not be a distraction from one another, but sort of complementary theaters, if you will. From Israel's perspective, I think right now they've done most of what they can do militarily in Gaza. I think they're looking for a way to de-escalate there, but they very much believe that Hezbollah has been planning and putting itself in a position to do to northern Israel what was done to the Israeli communities near Gaza Strip on October 7th, and they will not allow that to happen.
Colonel Rich, we are seeing some of the people in Lebanon, escaping. If you're to look at it in a wider complex, who do you think can quell the tensions between Israel and Lebanon at this moment?
Well, I think the Iranians are the ones who hold the keys at this point, and Iran has, frankly, a strategic dilemma. They have pursued this strategy of confronting Israel through the use of proxy groups with very little threat of direct retaliation against Iran. Now, there's been some limited strikes and so forth in the current, the past months, I guess we would say, with some assassinations and targeted strikes in Iran. But really, Iran has not paid much of a price. But the dilemma now is that there's real pain being inflicted on Hezbollah, and again, as well as on the state of Lebanon and on the Lebanese people. But with the decapitation of leadership, thousands of Hezbollah fighters have been killed and many more maimed and wounded. They are losing their best proxy, so to speak. So the key to what happens now is whether Iran says, okay, that's enough for this round, time to de-escalate, and stops the missile and rocket fire into Israel, or whether they say, we're going to lose our credibility with our proxies if we don't back them to the hilt. That decision in Tehran will be, I think, what decides whether this goes even hotter or starts to simmer down.
Colonel Rich, very quickly, as I let you go, will Israel manage to defend all its borders? It's fighting in the north, it's fighting in the south, it's fighting between Gaza.
Well, I think it's a good news, bad news situation from the Israeli security establishment's perspective. The good news is there's no major ground force, no army like in 1967 or 1973 trying to come in and seize massive amounts of Israeli territory. But the bad news is that there are these technologies, the rockets, the missiles, drones now. There's a major drone problem with, isolated people being able to steer in explosive drones into northern Israel. Right now, they don't have an answer for that. They can't actually secure those northern communities under the current dynamics of the battlefield. So That's why I think they are also sort of at a strategic crossroads. They're not going to get 100% security unless there's a political settlement that accompanies their battlefield success.
Right. I've been talking to retired Colonel Rich Outzen. That's our time at this moment. Thank you very much for talking to us, as always, Colonel Rich.
Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.